So I have a large bottle collection, always for sale, and I've just scored some more off one of the other bottle collectors I know. Got 3 cases of bottles just come in here. These guys are diggers. They actually go out to old mines, old towns, old dumps, and dig up looking for valuable bottles. You know, none of these are super valuable. They keep those ones, but this is like the overflow. But I'll run through a couple that are still cool bottles. You know, they're collectible and people like them. So firstly, these are a torpedo bottle. Might have seen those before. These were designed so that they had to be stored on their side, so that the contents kept the cork wet. So coming over from England, that was like a 6 to 8 month boat trip. So in that time, if bottles are standing up like that, the corks could dry, the contents would get air to it and get ruined by the time it got here. So this was designed to keep the cork wet, and was kind of superseded eventually by the Crown Seal, which your beer bottle today that you pop the top off is what's called a Crown Seal. So this is probably mid to early 1800s era. And ones like this, which are really an unbranded one, if it's not chipped or broken, this one does have a bit of a chip, but around about $30 value is what we would sell them for. Now this one is a case gin. You know, they were in cases, and the reason for the tapered bottom was so the square edges didn't just clang against each other again in long trips and get all smashed up and ruined. So they were only touching at the top bit. Not a super valuable one. You know, it's probably about $20 worth we would get for that. There are more valuable ones depending on the brand. Some of them have a glass, what looks like a wax seal with a logo stamped into it, and also a compressed top, which they call a pig snout top. And those ones, you know, we've sold for $40 and upwards. But these are still a cool old thing, and probably turn of the century, late 1800s era. So this one, interestingly enough, which is a Eodon ginger beer bottle, so E-O-D-O-N-E. Now, it's broken, because I mean, these were discarded. These were buried in the ground as rubbish. But this one, were it not broken, is I'm told, a very valuable bottle, probably over $1,000 worth. So I put one of these on eBay in this condition to see, even if it was broken, that someone would still want it, and it sold for $20. So even broken in that condition, some bottles are so rare and desirable that there's still somebody out there that wants it in their collection, even broken. So it has the Eodon embossed in there. This one has champagne and ginger beer written there, so I guess they used the same bottle for more than one type of thing. And I think this is around turn of the century, something like that, early century, late 1800s. Pretty cool that we can still get $20 for a broken bit of glass like that. So these little guys, call them Cobalt Blue Cobalt bottles. These ones aren't super valuable, but they're always an easy seller. When they're not broken, there's always people wanting the Cobalt Blue bottles. I imagine the blue color was for sunshade, so whatever the contents were, they wanted to protect from the sun, which was often why your old medicine bottles were brown, and beer bottles today are brown. That's literally to shade the sunlight from affecting the contents. That was probably some type of facial ointment. It actually says Vicks Vapor Rub. So there you go. That's an early Vicks Vapor Rub. And both of these say not to be taken. That one says bottle made in Japan. And this one, can't even see what it says on the bottom, but yeah, it would have had some type of ointment or medicine, or not to be taken. Those ones would have been something other than a medicine, but very cool. And I mean, sort of depending on who's buying, but say $5 to $10 each, you can pretty easily get for the Cobalt ones. So lastly, there's these ones that I'll show. From what I know, they were like a vinegar or some type of, you know, sauce condiment bottle from the late 1800s, turn of the century. They're not worth a lot, you know, realistically, maybe $5 and $10. So not super valuable. They don't appear to be branded or anything, but they're a pretty good seller. They're just kind of an interesting decorative bottle, and the guys do dig up quite a few of them. And I mean, some of the signs of aging, that they are old, you can actually see bubbles in the glass from the early manufacturing process. Now you can see a line down here. There'll be another one on the other side. So that shows that this was blown into a two-piece mold. Someone's job all day long would have been making these bottles. So they blow them into a mold and then they manually finish the top, which is why the tops are sometimes a bit out of shape and sort of never perfect, because people made these bottles one by one by hand. So again, sort of late 1800s, turn of the century. Was by the 19-teens we were factory producing bottles, which they were all, by that time they would all be uniform, perfect tops, every single one looking the same. So yeah, these imperfect bottles are a sign of being sort of turn of the century or earlier. So yeah, pretty cool. So those were just a few bottles that I scored just yesterday from this latest edition of bottles that I have here. Thought I'd show off a couple. And we can look at more bottles as I get them in the future, and even focus on some more valuable ones when I get them.